Do you like video games? I used to when I was a kid. This is back in the early 90s. There was a video game system called a Nintendo or a Nintendo Entertainment System. This was one of the first video game systems to ever come out. Graphics were awful compared to today, of course, but it didn't stop the games from being fun, especially for somebody like me. I didn't have a lot of access to luxury type things, and this felt a little bit luxurious being able to play video games in my own home. One of the first games is called Super Mario Brothers. And in Super Mario Brothers, you run your little character, his name is Mario, from one end of the level to the other. And in doing so, you had to avoid a bunch of obstacles, including holes in the ground. There were plants that would try to eat you. There were little walking mushrooms called Goombas that were trying to kill you. There were turtles that were trying to kill you. There were fireballs that you had to avoid. So avoiding all these obstacles was kind of the point of the game. And then you'd get to the end of the level, you'd get to this castle, and then you'd move on to the next level, and the next level was even harder. And they got progressively harder and harder and harder and harder. And I propose that's the fun of it. That's why people play video games, for the challenge. It's fun to take on a challenge and come out the other end having completed it, having beat it, having overcome those challenges. And if you think about a video game that didn't have any challenges or surprises or setbacks, that would be the most boring game in the world and nobody would play it. So similarly, life is like that. Life is a series of setbacks and challenges. Yet so many of us seem upset and surprised when the next one comes, like we didn't expect there to be problems. And I propose that expecting them is part of what makes life worth living. And in fact, we should welcome these because problems give us a chance to solve interesting problems. We can find solutions to these problems. We can come out the other end in a good place. We can learn and we can grow. There's going to be financial setbacks. That's a guarantee. Learning how to deal with them, that's going to help us live a better financial life. Find out more right after this. Hey, it's Derek Hagan here. I'm a financial therapist, writer, and speaker. Thanks for joining me for this Money Health presentation where we talk about financial setbacks. And we're not just going to talk about financial setbacks, but setbacks in general, in life, really. So let me show you what that looks like in a picture. If you think of baseline right here, this is happiness. Call this like baseline happiness. And up here is positive happiness. Down here that's sadness. Okay, so we've all got a baseline level of happiness. And let's say you're floating along through life, and maybe things are going pretty good, but then you experience a negative event. And this could be anything. This could be some kind of a setback. We'll call this a setback. And this causes you to feel some negative emotion, maybe anger or sadness or grief or something like that. Now, getting over that and back to baseline, that's called resiliency. That's called resiliency. Getting back to baseline. Now, if you're more resilient, you get back up to baseline faster. And if you're less resilient, you get back up to baseline and it takes a little bit longer. But that's okay because you still got back to baseline. You're still resilient. Now, what I really want to highlight is something called post-traumatic growth. What if you learned all the lessons? What if you learned all the lessons from your setbacks? And not only did you get back to baseline, but you surpassed it. You learned something. You bettered yourself. You actually took that negative event and became a better person because of it. Nietzsche once said, "Whatever doesn't kill me, make me stronger." This is kind of what he was talking about. Well, I want to talk about the perfect world. If you ask a lot of people to describe what's your perfect world look like, they're going to describe most of the time some kind of a world where I'm just on easy street. I don't have any problems. There's no stress. I'm carefree. Everything's great. That's this perfect world. But what happens in that perfect world? What happens in that perfect world is if this is normal today, and if we're happy all the time, if we were happy all the time, that would just become the new normal. Right? Because we're used to as humans, we get used to things very quickly. Hedonic adaptation, we call that. So as soon as we became happy all the time, That would become the new normal. And then we'd have to feel extra happy to feel a little bit of joy. See, this isn't even on our radar over here today. Right? So you'd have to feel extra happy in this perfect world in order to feel any kind of joy. And what we consider normal today, that would be sad in this perfect world. So think of your base state. You're watching this video. This, how you feel right now in this perfect world that people describe, you would be sad. And sad today would be completely depressed. So this perfect world is not actually something to strive for. Now I know you might be thinking, oh good, we just shifted all these things up. So we have a new normal. And there is some level of that that's true, but because we get used to it too quickly, it actually functionally doesn't matter to us. We get used to it, and we don't want to have we don't want to have a world where there's no problems, because nothing would really change effectively. We need the setbacks, and you got to think of this in terms of they're going to happen. It's 100% chance setbacks are going to happen. What we don't know is what that setback will be, when it's going to happen, how long it's going to last, or why it happened. But it will happen. Some setback will happen. Pretending otherwise has no value whatsoever. But if you think about it, that's how most people, without any kind of interior work, any kind of introspective, look or looking inside yourself, we get surprised. The setback happens just like it was supposed to. And then that sends us into this state of, oh, woe is me, this sucks, might even boo-hoo, why does this always happen to me? I'm not saying you shouldn't ever be sad. That's not what we're taking out of this. What I am saying is you should not get sad because of a setback. That's the point. Setbacks are going to happen, and there's no use in pretending that they're not going to happen. Because we actually need and want setbacks and challenges and problems. Because to become resilient and post-traumatic growth as well, that sets on a base of risks, challenges, and adversities. The best entrepreneurs in the world failed several times, and then they learned from those failures. We need to overcome challenges so that we can learn and grow. I heard a story of a C-level executive's son. The CEO was very distraught because his son just quit his job. His son was the valedictorian in high school at a private high school, and then he got into a name brand college, and he finished at the top of his class in a very difficult major, which got him into a name brand law school, and he finished at the top of his name brand law school, never experienced anything but an A in his whole academic career. Then he got a great job at a name brand law firm on the partner track. Then 3 weeks in, he got a critical email from his boss that was sent to the whole company, and he didn't know how to deal with that. This kid quit. This kid who had everything given to him quit. And why would you quit? Because he didn't know how to handle a little, please reword this, this letter. You need to do a better job. He did not know how to deal with that. And so he quit. His response was to just quit. He didn't have any failures before that. He didn't know how to fail. Where most of us in his position would say, hey, thank you, that's a great idea. Or I might disagree with you, but I know how to handle that. Right? We don't just quit our job because we didn't like this jerk of a boss who told us that we weren't perfect. We need challenges. And just like any skill, resiliency is a skill. And with any skill, it goes up with practice. The more you practice, the better you get at it. And so we should welcome challenges. We should welcome adversity. We should go out of our way to put ourselves in embarrassing situations so that we can learn how to deal with embarrassment. And not only deal with embarrassment, but not even get embarrassed. We should take risks. And if they fail, that's okay, because we learned. There's only wins and lessons. Now, the only failure is leaving a setback without getting the lesson from it. There's lessons in these everywhere for us. So we don't want to live a life that doesn't have setbacks. We should introduce setbacks into our life. We should reframe setbacks as challenges. As soon as this happens to us, something bad happened, we can train our mind to say, okay, this is an interesting problem to solve. And we can do that before we get angry, before we get sad. Because if we're angry and sad or feeling any other kind of negative emotion, we're not going to come up with the optimal solution. So if we can hijack that feedback loop and say, this is a problem to solve. This is the hand that I was dealt. How do I play this hand? That helps us prevent negative emotion. We don't have to squash it because we're not feeling it in the first place. And that's skill level expert up here. But you can get there with practice. So start to expect setbacks, welcome setbacks, put yourself in embarrassing situations, learn how to deal with failure, learn how to deal with challenges, reframe these things as solutions, and that's good money health.